Good evening, folks. Today, I want to focus on one subject that keeps cropping up recently. Because we're in this time of the year, November, December in the UK, where rain is torrentious. I have posted, obviously, I've done a bootleg video, just a short one. I'll no doubt have to tackle that at a later date because, quite frankly, this car still dribbles just a little bit in the boot. I have put a bit of a cloth down to soak it up, and we've had some pretty heavy rain, but that's all that I've had at the moment. So things are okay at the back, but they're going to have to be looked at some point in the future. Oh God, I'm getting old with these wrinkles. This light doesn't do me any good. Yeah, so basically I'm going to go over what I've spoken about before, the pollen filter seal leaks. So if you are getting water in the passenger footwell, this is what your problem is, and this is a really important subject. Please watch this video if you are having this issue. Obviously your first port of call is down here in the passenger footwell. All of this will be wet. You'll have water leaking back this way along the footwell. Now, what will be apparent is your carpet up here will be quite soaked. That is because water is leaking through the pollen filter seal. Now, some people call it the scuttle seal, and I'm going to show you that now. Right, along the scuttle, you've got two halves. Now, this is the bit of a Focus Mark 1, which I do not like at all. It is completely design flawed. So basically, you've got two halves, okay? This half, the passenger half, has a seal that goes from about here. So if you can just see the end of the seal here, and it goes all the way. You can really see it on this bit here, actually. Look at that. That's the amount of water that it deflects. And it ends pretty much in the middle there where it finishes off. Now, the reason that the driver's side does not have this seal is because water is designed, if it does, to get past here and go straight into the scuttle well where the wiper is. And then the water will just go off at the ends and go down the drain holes, okay? Now, on the passenger side, you have the pollen filter housing, which is literally probably where I'm running this, okay? That housing has a cover on it, but the cover is not designed to keep out water. So water can get in there if there is no seal, or this seal has deteriorated to the point where there's absolutely nothing. Now, touch wood, in terms of, I've owned this car for 10 years and I've changed this seal once. I've never had a leak in the passenger's footwell. The seal has to be virtually non-existent to leak into the car. The seal that I replaced 3 years ago when I did I think I changed the pollen filter about 3 years ago now, and that one is still in there. Now, to be honest, it does need changing. Pollen filters need changing before you start to see symptoms. If you get to a point where the fan is struggling and the airflow is struggling, you've left it way too late. That is not the time to change a pollen filter. You change it every few years. Now, what they do say is change the filter, the seal every few years when you change the filter. That's unnecessary. That seal, when you take off this scuttle, so you've got a couple of clips, I'm sure I'll do this at a later date. I will definitely make a video of it. The seal will probably either stick to the windscreen or stick to the scuttle, whichever one, okay? But just take it off gently. The one that it sticks to, try and keep it on that one. So if it sticks to the scuttle when you take it off, try and get the rest off the windscreen, but don't break it. Don't break it into two pieces, because then you'll have a break in it and that's where water will get in. Particularly in this section here, just this bit. So from around here to about here. I wouldn't worry about these end bits here, okay, because the housing is here. Because the idea is it stops water going through off the edge straight into that housing. You don't want it doing that. So really, you do need to look at the condition of the seal when you replace the filter. But overall, you do not need to change the seal every time you change the filter. But I have, in my old one, when I changed it, was in such a bad state. I thought, how on earth has this not leaked? But it didn't. It didn't leak. It's because it was probably placed very well on the scuttle, and it, as I say, just I never had a problem from it. But I did change it nevertheless for a new seal. The seals are about 15 quid. Just type it into eBay, it will come up with the correct seal. It's 15 quid, and I'm going to show you why you must spend that 15 quid, because it's going to cost you an awful lot if you don't. Right, now I've got the bonnet open, I'm just going to go for a few little pointers. Firstly, if you have a Mark 1 Focus, you may still have, if you're lucky, the seals that go on the end of the scuttle. There's one on this side and there's one on that side. As you can see, mine haven't got them. Now the purpose of this seal is to make sure that leaves and debris cannot get through this hole. That is all it's for, because you don't want stuff getting choked down there. Now personally, I take my scuttle off every so often, have a clean out to make sure the drain holes, there's one drain hole just down here on this side and there's one on this side. I always make sure they're clean. It's not a problem, okay? But what you don't want is those drain holes to become blocked and then the level rises, because I can tell you now that filter housing in there, it's probably about that far above the deck, right? That's not a lot. If you've got a blocked drain, water will go up to that level and it will leak into the housing, far worse than having no seal, and you'll have a flood inside the cabin and lots of damage. So please make sure your drain holes are unblocked. So when you take the scuttle off, particularly this side, that side is more difficult because you've got to break those wiper arms off the spindles and they can really seize on. Now that is something I did years ago, and it's probably the case where they'll seize again. To get that side off, you'll need to do that, but it's one of those things really. The other job that I haven't done is I haven't had to replace the ball joints in my wiper motor system. They can go jerky. If they do, then you'll probably notice and have some symptoms, or in any case they'll just pop off while you're driving and you have no wipers. But that is a job for the future. But anyway, that is an important point. Keep the drain holes clear. Right, we come back in the car now. Basically that's the cause, okay, of these water leaks, the seal. Whether it is there, where it's there but it's deteriorated, or not there at all, or someone's tried to put silicone down instead, gasket maker. I don't know why people do that. Excuse me, I've got a whooping cold at the moment. It's that time of the year. Anyway, if you have a flood of water in here, right, I would suggest that you have to take the carpets off. Now, the first thing I would do is just try and get it up with a wet vac or whatever, okay? If it's not too bad, then it will dry out. But if it's an absolute flood of water, you can see a pool, you need to get the carpets up. Because this material, this carpet material, I think it's like a recycled polyester based nylon, something like that. So it will actually bead water if it's just a few droplets, but if it's a load of water, it's going to go straight onto the foam underneath, and you do not want water on the underside of this carpet sitting against the clean metal, because otherwise what you're going to end up with is water rusting the inner sill seam, and that is what will happen. So I suggest you get the carpets off and dry it properly, because that would cause so many other issues. But anyway, the damage that this could potentially cause is, well, theoretically, the water goes straight through your filter. That filter will be saturated and completely useless. You'll need a new pollen filter anyway. The second thing is that water will go directly down into the fan. The fan motor sits right underneath the pollen filter. So water will go straight into that fan. And if you get squealing noises from your fan when the car is perfectly warm and the fan's been running for a couple of minutes, you are going to need a new fan. because what that's done is water is sat in the middle, rusted out the bearing spindle, and now it's squealing all the time. And that will cause a further problem, because at some point that fan, with its squealing bearing, that is going to consume more electricity. It's going to suck electricity to keep it spinning at the speed you've set it at on the control. That has and will blow your heater resistor. Your heater resistor will 100% blow because of that, and you only have number 4 working, the normal speed, I should say, number 4. So realistically, I mean, you could get away with a heater resistor. Sometimes they don't blow it, but usually it is the case when the fan motor starts making squealing noises that the bearing's gone. So for the sake of it, you'll need a new heater resistor, you'll need a new fan, you'll need a new pollen filter seal and a new filter, and you'll need to dry the carpets. You've just cost yourself the best part of 70–80 pounds for the sake of a 15 quid seal. Yeah, this is why this job can escalate really badly, and people need to understand you need to look at that seal. Okay, I would recommend, even if the seal doesn't look half bad, you replace it, because if you want to keep the car long term, then it will give you some long-term reassurance that there'll be no water in the cabin. It's a very easy job to do with getting the fan out, by the way. If only a little bit of water has got onto the carpet, you will find there'll be a little bit of water in the fan. Now, if the fan is okay and it's not squealing, get the fan down. So take the glove box out, take a couple of clips of the trim. There's 3 bolts that hold the bottom of the heater on, and a clip, and it will just drop out. Okay, dry the heater fan out, take it inside, dry it out thoroughly, contact cleaner, whatever you need to use, okay, until it spins nice and freely, and then put it back in. Okay, and then dry it all out, put it all back together with a new seal, new filter, etc. Okay. Someone also said, oh well, you need a seal on the driver's side scuttle, because otherwise water will get in and then corrode the back of the instrument cluster. No. I've heard stories like that before. There's no seal for the driver's side scuttle. There doesn't need to be one. Water's not going to go that way and go this way. Okay, it's going to run down the end of the windscreen and go straight into the scuttle and out through the drain holes. It's not going to go that way and then come back that way. There's no way it can do so. There's no piece of metal where it can actually run along to come back towards the instrument cluster. The reason they corrode is due to excess moisture in the winter. There's a couple of bad soldered joints on these clusters, and they always tend to go. It's nothing you can do about it. The only thing I would recommend is a dehumidifier, and I think I've got one in the car. I think I've got one under here, and it's here. There we go. Okay, put one of these in your car and let it sit. In fact, I've had this in the car for a couple of weeks. Oh, look at that. That's a couple of weeks of this just sitting there collecting water moisture. So have one of them in your car, and that will probably do the trick if you're not having major symptoms with the cluster. So I'm hoping that solves answers a few of your questions. I have spoken about this before, so apologies for the people who have watched my earlier videos. I think it was the common interior problems where I spoke about this issue, but I thought it'd be good to highlight it again, because we are having a lot of rain and there are quite a few people on the forums asking the same questions that have been asked many times before. And I hope that they might see a video like this and think, okay, maybe I should get it sorted. I suggest you do, because it will cost you an awful lot of money. And it is probably the single most common item that goes wrong on a Mark 1 Focus. It is an area of the car that is, quite frankly, not very well designed. The materials are not great, and it wasn't really thought of very well. I would say it's the #1 issue. I would say, in terms of overall issues that you can experience with a Mark 1 Focus, if you asked me what are the top 10, this is definitely in the top 10. It's probably in the top few. I would say coil pack issues are very close. Instrument pack issues are also another issue. Obviously rust, obviously, you know, that's a given on any car this age. But I would definitely say, aside from rust, pollen filter seal leaks. Oh yes, I think that's the number one. Take care guys, see you very soon.